All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, we're recording. Yo, hello everybody. Welcome back to episode 5. That number 5, special to the first guest of the podcast. Chose him for this reason. A lot of people know this person. He is probably the closest person I have to a natural brother in this life. I've never had a person outside of my family that's been more supportive than this guy. Very successful. All jokes aside, I always kind of looked at him when I was younger as a role model because he was a couple of years older than me and he was doing things sooner than me in life. Well, not sooner. I don't know how that sounds, but you know what I mean. He was a couple years older than me, so I kind of would watch how he was moving after high school and college and things like that because, you know, he's 2 years ahead of me. But anyway, no further ado, welcome to the show, Pleze Crawford. What up, Pleze?
What's up? I appreciate the number 5.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, we try. I couldn't give you no Club Shay Shay intro. I don't all your accolades. He is a multi-million-dollar. Say, I won't even try to do that impression. Anyhow, being the first guest, one, I appreciate you being the test dummy. But like I've said many times before, there's no surprises on here. There's no Jerry Springer. You talk about somebody and I go, actually, we have them on the other line. Yo, mama, say hello. No, it's just as simple as what I said before. So let's go ahead and get down to it because you know and I know this will probably be a little minute. First off, what did you want to be when you were growing up, Mr. Crawford?
I was thinking about this, the whole topic and the concept of it all, and it's a lot. And before I could even answer that question, I really got to go into a lot of the background when it comes to like my thoughts about jobs, careers, work. As a kid, for whatever reason, the whole concept of like your job was so important, and you know, and a lot of that stemmed from my dad. And when I would go to visit him at work and seeing his work ethic and what he did, I guess like at an early age, that kind of instilled like, of course, like, you know, a great work ethic, you know, but it wasn't just that alone. I would see how he was a produce manager for Alpha Beta back in the day. Okay. And so what I would see was I come to visit him like after church because he would work some Sundays, and I would see how his coworkers, whether they were like in a position above him or below him, how everybody equally treated him with like a certain amount of respect and reverence altogether. So I didn't know, you know, what I wanted to be, but that just kind of set the framework early on. Like I wanted to do something important and I wanted people to look up to me and like, you know, have a certain level of respect. So that kind of started the whole thought process as, I guess, as a kid, you know, it started from there. But the answer itself is it's funny because the short answer is I say going back to maybe 7 or 8 years old. The answer has changed. It's evolved and changed over time.
Oh, of course.
Altogether.
Yeah.
You know, and still to this day where it's constantly still like, you know, updating and whatnot. I think I'm done now. I think, but then again, you know, time will tell. But I mean, you asked me this question at 7 or 8. Of course, like I'm a little kid. I just started playing football. I'm falling in love with it. I'm doing really good. So if you ask me then, I'm going to say, hey, no, I'm going to USC. And then right after, like I win the Heisman, I'm going to go play for, you know,
hey, dreams are free.
The Chicago Bears.
Yeah, dreams are free. That's the best part. I mean, not to cut you off, but that there's no wrong answer to these questions.
Right.
Unless you said, I was a gangster from day one. I always wanted to be a gangster. No, there's no wrong answer. Dreams are free. I mean, we can all dream. It only costs you something when you want to make it reality, right? So, yeah, no, like I said in mine, I just knew I wanted to act or do something in the arts, like behind the camera or in front of it. That's all fine and dandy, but did I make it a reality? Did I really try? And I can say no. But go ahead.
Let's see. I got some notes on the side.
Yeah, that's all good. You're supposed to pretend this came from the dome.
I literally, in thinking about this, I had to break it down by different, I'd say, ages and stages of life for me to, give like a good, valid, answer altogether. But, around the time that we met, when I was like 16, 17, if you asked me that same question, it would have been something around the lines of I wanted to be successful and do something important, but I didn't know what it was yet. And of course, at that time, Boomerang had came out. So of course you want to do something like Marcus Graham, and be like that. Of course, and live that lifestyle. But I didn't really have an interest at all. I knew that much in terms of marketing or advertising. I was it was a little bit too much on the creative side, for me.
You wanted the lifestyle.
Well, yeah, because he, he was successful, he was in shape, it was just a lot of stuff that he had going for himself that I was just I want to be in that type of role when I'm really into my career, but not knowing what that would actually be.
How old were you at this time? You said 16, 17?
Yeah, that was about 16, 17.
Gotcha.
And the funny part is it just kept changing. So I go off to SB and it's okay, I went in undeclared.
You have, not to cut you off, you have people that aren't from Cali, California.
Right.
What is SB?
Okay. So, most states have this where they have the University of the state. So there's just different campuses. So UCLA is in LA, Cal Berkeley is in Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara is in Santa Barbara. So that's where I ultimately got my first UC acceptance, and I chose to go there because I just fell in love with the campus.
Easy to do out there.
Oh yeah, but I didn't know when I basically signed up to go there. I went in undeclared because at 17 years old, do you really know what you're going to do for the rest of your life? Okay, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. You truly don't know.
I've never met anybody that has. I imagine they exist. I remember, my oldest daughter was 5, and this young girl comes in the office. And, I'm thinking she's the nurse. She was 24. Well, she ended up telling me her age. And she goes, yeah, so tell me what's going on with her. And I tell her everything's going on. She had a fever. It's a Saturday. And she leaves out. And then she comes back in again. And I was like, what else does she want? Where's the doctor? And I finally asked her. I was I'm sorry, but is the doctor running behind? She's like, oh, no, I am the doctor. And I was like, oh. I felt like Tyrone Biggums. I felt like a bum. I was like, oh, I'm sitting there at 30 years old. And it was just, she wasn't trying to check me or nothing, but it just made me think dang, that means from what you just said, from jump. 18, 17 had to be. She was like, oh, no, I'm going to be a pediatrician. And went, in my mind, she went to no parties. She did not go to UCSB. If she did, UCSB is a lot of fun, y'all. She couldn't have went there. She had to go to school. Oh, my gosh. But, yeah, she pretty much just, real quick story, she told me, she was like, yep, just got it all done, and here I am. And I was like, Dang.
Wow. That's impressive.
So that's the only person I've ever met that was that focused. Everybody else, which is everything you're saying is what I believe just about everyone will say. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They thought they knew what they wanted to do. And then life punches you in the stomach and you realize, oh, to be a lawyer, I got to do what?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my apartment 2 years after high school. I'm trying to get out of my parents' house. Oh, I fell into retail or whatever it is. But yeah, but undeclared. And then
it's funny what you just said about like that. Oh, you got to do that because initially, based off of my experience with braces in junior high and high school, I was thinking, oh, I want to be an orthodontist, and I thought about it. Then I get to SB, Santa Barbara, and I find out, oh, well, that's going to require a lot of science classes, a lot of math classes. So I was like that. I wasn't truly interested in those classes, and they weren't my strongest. So I was like, do I want to do I have that much of a passion to be an orthodontist? 17, 18, the answer is no. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing about college. A lot of people will say, everybody's, has different opinions when it comes to college and the price of it and the overall value of it. But one of the things I learned the most is you're going to truly learn about yourself, what your interests are, along with other things like how to basically be self-sufficient and be a responsible adult as well. That comes along with it. But learning what I liked and what I absolutely did not like was like one of the first things that I learned, going to college. And that helped a lot because it pointed me in a direction of like where, I really want to go.
Right. No, I totally agree. My hat's off to the people that are focused from day one and know exactly what they want to be and carry it out. But for the rest of us, I mean, it's a journey, man. I mean, you meet so many people, both in school. I mean, there were jobs I had never heard of while I was going to school. I don't know. I mean, the drive somebody's got to have to know from day one what they want to be and carry it out despite everything they hear around them. I mean, outside of that dream situation. Well, my father was a lawyer, so I'm a lawyer. My dad was a doctor, so I'm a doctor. I'm getting the family
business.
Or just watching Trading Places. Now, if that was my life, Randolph and Mortimer, and Trading Places, heck yeah, I'm going into the family business. But outside of that, no, man. But that was cool. Like, I enjoyed learning about new stuff that my parents didn't even know about, job wise and things. That's what led me to real estate. I was like, you can make what? Oh,
yeah.
And like you said about the classes, I started realizing with kinesiology. I mean, it wasn't hard. It wasn't with kinesiology. It's like the easier route than becoming a doctor, class wise. But even still, like, just, it sounds mean, but I didn't care about helping anybody. Like, that was their passion. Like, don't you want to help people? And I was like, I just want the money. Like, I just want the money. Like you said, I wanted the lifestyle. Like, I don't know. I was open. I realized I was more open to other stuff than I thought I was. I don't know about you, but
you should have probably thought about minoring in sports management.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant. I did not know what that meant. And my parents, not to blame them, but they still were a pretty big influence as to my decisions. I mean, we all try to rebel and all that stuff, but I think, in my opinion, I listened to them more than I should have. I learned a lesson, and it's not to knock them, but if someone's never walked through that thing, that journey or whatever it is, you can listen to them, but you can't take what they're saying to heart because they don't know. They never walked it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy while I'm thinking about it.
No, it makes perfect sense.
I should have just
and it's all
ran
based on
with
their
it
perspective.
and let them. Yeah, I was so worried about them saying, "See, I told you," and it was like, so it just kind of shaped some of the routes I took. But yeah, I should have just. Like I tell my kids now, like my dog, I tell them, I'm like, Kaylin, my youngest, I'm like, you should do, she dropped, what did she do? She got out of chorus because she does band. So she got out, she was doing band and chorus, and she said something. And I was like, you know what you should go into, because I know her personality. I said, she's funny. She's just naturally funny and outspoken. And I said, you should go into drama. She said, I ain't going to drama. What do I want to go to drama for? His kids are weird. And I said, I told her real calmly, and Kay was there too, my wife. I said, it's the only time in your life, sad to say, where someone will ask you to take a drama class and you don't have to worry about who's picking up the kids, who's cooking, who's getting dinner, I would love to take a drama class right now just for fun and not be tired as hell from work and all that stuff. I'm like, man, this is the only time in life. You can take karate. Can't nobody say nothing to you. Like, what? You going to karate? We got bills to pay. Like, no, you're a kid. I go, it's the only time you can take whatever we can take bowling, like anything. And she was just like, I don't feel like it. I said, yeah, all right. I said, you should be taking as many extracurricular things as you can, because it's the only time you can try to play volleyball and do drama and do band, and nobody's going to talk about you. They will if you're 35, but my own opinion, unless you got a really cool spouse. But
no, that was me. In college, I was I learned about, and it's, you're in an environment with a lot of people your same age, and they're giving you tips on different classes and whatnot. So I took that to heart, and I was taking a lot of extracurricular type of classes that didn't have much to do with my major at all. I didn't even actually select my major until about the end of my sophomore year. But I got a chance to take a lot of classes that I was interested in, like intro to acting, and basically having assignments where I would have to memorize an entire monologue and go through the whole process of memorizing. And then, the final is you're going to perform that in front of the class. And when I say monologue now, it's always going to make me laugh, because it's going to remind me of that movie, Be Cool, where John Travolta and The Rock is basically going through, and he's saying he basically is doing a scene, but he's doing both parts. And so when I selected my monologue, I understood the assignment. It's supposed to be one long continual speech. So I still didn't really have Friday memorized at that point, but I remember the movie Juice. There's this one scene where Tupac is going off on all his friends, and it's kind of a scene where people are going back and forth at a certain time, and then in the heart of that conversation, he goes in straight talking about what all they're going through and how they're getting messed around by this group and that group and blah blah blah. So I use that as my monologue. And it actually came out pretty well, even though it still kind of was a little bit of both sides if you watch the actual scene in the movie. But the whole point was I had a lot of chance to take some really cool classes and learn some stuff, whether it was art history or classics or Voices of the Stranger. A lot of great classes, all before I actually had to sit down and figure out what major I was going to pick. And even when it got to that point, it took a while to figure it out. But I was like, oh, well, communications is a major where it has so many different potential careers, like anything from advertising, marketing, journalism. And then at that time, we're talking about, I don't want to date myself too much, but 99 or so, web design was becoming a new medium that was also under the umbrella of communication. So for me, I was like, I have a lot of options, and I liked the classes I was taking for communication. So I went ahead and chose that as my major. Oh, and answering the question, still not knowing anything about what I was going to do at that stage in my life. All through college, for me, of course, it's probably different for everybody, but for me, it was like a different experience because I was working through college, of course, going to college full time, and I was running track. So for me,
yeah, talk about your track, man. I mean, I only say that because that was a big part of your life while you were in college, and high school as well. It's not always all about career. I mean, these are the things that, in my opinion, kind of shape all of us into who we are today. Those things. Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt. Like that, actually, I didn't even think about it, but that, by that point in my life, my sophomore year, my junior year, I came in, I wasn't, recruited, but I was able to walk on and make the team, and I was doing well. And I was like, okay, for me, though, track was something that I was competitive and always good at, but it wasn't my first love like football. So, but, being at SB that didn't have a football program, to me, it was always a big thing to still perform or compete at a Division I level. So plus we got to go to like a lot of cool colleges, Stanford, UCLA, a lot of great campuses, and compete against some of the best, in the nation. So, that time before I started really thinking career, like, okay, what type of job I'm going to have, the first thoughts were, hey, if I can improve this amount this year and next year, can I make it to the point where I'm eligible for the Olympic trials in 2000?
Wow. That's where your head was? Really?
Yeah, I was thinking, like, honestly, if I can, because whether it's like a running event where you're trying to basically reduce your time, or my events were long jump and triple jump, so how far you can go. So for me, it was kind of like a math equation. Like you increase or you get your technique better, you get stronger, and then you basically jump farther. And so, but I noticed ever since high school, like every year you're going to grow, and your how far you jump goes farther every single year. And that jump, some years is like a difference between like jumping, say, like 36 feet, like my sophomore year in high school, to jumping 42 feet in like 1 year. And then just basically making big jumps year after year. The faster you get, the stronger you get, the better your technique becomes. So to me, I was thinking like, I'm headed in that direction. The one thing I didn't think about is staying healthy. And I could tell you from playing football from 7 years old all the way through high school, I've never got injured, like seriously injured doing that, but track and field, and it's zero contact, but you put more pressure on your body and your muscles and every joint doing that and training in this sport. So I got hurt far more doing track and field, especially like the cross training and stuff like that, than I ever did in football. So for me, the main drawback was, having a stress fracture the end of my junior year, and also a torn meniscus that needs to be repaired. And so I remember I had to basically redshirt the entire year, exactly, and do the surgery, rehab it, and come back. But by the time I was coming back, that was pretty much my last year of eligibility. And so the way that whole journey went was through the summer And through the fall, I was basically building myself back up, getting stronger. And if you've ever seen triple jump, it's highly impactful on your joints when you're jumping, especially the first two phases. So if you have either of those legs that's bad or deficient, it's going to hurt, and it can cause a lot of damage. So I finally, my senior year, worked my way back up. I was basically competing. And 2 weeks before our conference championship, which was going to be my last chance for me to, get to the mark I was trying to get to, but also to basically place all conference at our conference championships. 2 weeks before that, I was at Santa Barbara City College at a track meet. There was a strong tailwind, and I was doing a long jump. And it pushed my body too fast towards the pit, and I ended up pulling my left quadricep. Ooh. So I only had like 2.5, 3 weeks to try to basically mend that in order to basically compete. And the long and the short version is it didn't heal completely. I still competed in championship, but I didn't place. And that was like, to me, that was heartbreaking at that time in my life, because you put a lot of, like they say, blood, sweat, and tears, but you really do when you're competing, at that level. And it just took everything out of me. But the one thing that I gained from that whole experience is I basically gave my heart and soul and everything to this one sport, this one activity. And, I may have fell short, but at the end of the day, I was still proud of like the effort and coming through. And I think that kind of helped me career-wise as I navigated my career. And I had sometimes where it feels like, oh my God, I was doing so well, and now I feel like overnight I hit rock bottom. But it's kind of like having that experience in my back pocket, knowing that nothing can break me going forward.
Track build a foundation for you is what it sounds like. Just that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Got your like I tell Kaylin, because of her with band, she wanted to quit this last year, which I was not going to let her do. I told her, I said, I'd be a bad daddy if I let you quit. I told her, I said, you have to develop your motor. And it took her a minute to understand what I was trying to tell her. I said, if I let you quit, that's you quitting. Like, I've already lived my life and done what I am, I shouldn't say like I'm dying, but you know what I mean? Like, it's over for me. Like, I don't get to go do drama or whatever. I go, I'm not letting you quit band because I need you to develop your motor. It's not about you doing band for the rest of your life. I know you're not going to work at Disneyland banging a drum or blowing a horn. It's the developing consistency, like what you're talking about, consistency through obstacles. As well as I know, a lot of people we went to school with in high school, which will remain nameless for the sake of need to have that disclosure at the beginning of the podcast. The names of the individuals of the dead, dumb and blind, have been protected for the sake of blah, 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 blah. A lot of those people, talented, some of them didn't, and I'm not just talking about sports, but even everything in high school and even college, or just people we worked with, they had the goods, but consistency is such a valuable thing. And I told her, I said, you got to develop your motor. That motor that I told her, I said, when you get older and you have kids, I said, something as simple as you and your 4 best friends are 32 and everybody put on a little bit of weight and you guys all decide you're going to go to the gym and work it off. And 3 of them drop out, and you're the only one taking it serious. Not to pick on them, but I remember years ago, Kelly was like, hey, we should do this vegan diet together. And I was like, I'm not going to say I'm like Kobe Bryant, but you don't tell me. And I had to develop this skill of consistency because I did not grow up with what you're talking about. I didn't do anything sports wise or anything where I had to be consistent. So I had to learn all that much later in life, if I'm being honest. And I did this vegan diet for, I think it was a year. Yeah, because he was like, let's do it for a year. I'm thinking, yeah, man. What was it, like 2000? Gosh, like 2000. It was before the pandemic. It was like 2019. I'm doing it before that even, because 2019 was when I thought whiskey was really cool. So it was before that. It was like I guess it was 2018, and I was like, you know what? Because he has his struggles with food, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and do it with him, for him. And I'm thinking he's doing it with me. Long story short, I had already learned that skill of consistency, and I'm using it, I'm applying it, I'm skipping every Waffle House breakfast and this and that and steak. I hadn't ate a steak, nothing. And then one day I'm at his pad at his house for football, and I would still have a drink here and there, and he's like, I got to get this meat off the grill. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I don't think he's talking about for his family and the people that were visiting. That's full. Oh, yeah, take some of that. I was like, well, you can't, because we're doing the dang on, make me cuss. We're doing the vegan thing. He's like, what? And I was like, the vegan thing. And it was like 10 months. I'm not joking. Like 10 months later, we just hadn't had a situation where we were eating together where it made a difference. Then he was like, oh, he starts laughing. He goes, fool, I got off of that 2 weeks after. And I was like, mother. I said, 2 weeks. I was like, hey, I don't have a problem. I was doing this for you. I said, not for me. I don't have a problem with eating right and all that. I was like, I'm already good. I was like, you 2 weeks? Yeah, man. Nah. But then it was 10 months, and I was like, that consistency. Now, this is a much different, much smaller scale than what you're talking about. But that motor, that's probably one of the most valuable skills as an adult a young person can develop, because everybody's looking to crash out. Every day you'll talk to a friend, at least one person is going to say, I'm so tired right now. Oh man, I'm so tired. And it's like, where are you tired from? Well, went to work and got up, and it's like, that's every day. They're so tired, or they're just getting over something, or they feel like they're catching something. And it's just like, its bigger picture is it's excuses for being lazy. They're just putting it out there. A little disclaimer. In case I don't perform, I'm kind of sick, I'm kind of tired. And it's like, you're lazy. You don't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, that consistency, that's one thing, like with having the girls, having the kids, they're still young, they're still developing, but I tried to show them that, I was going to show them regardless, because that's who I became, but I like to believe when they get older, that's going to stick with them. And I know for Kaylin, like, there's things that I can already see it. Like, if she doesn't get something, she just keeps going. Like, even if she does get, like, she was trying to do the drums. She just picked up guitar for band. She's been practicing guitar for a year or more now. And she's already been doing the flute. The drums, I was like, you don't have time for the drums. She's just like, but I can do it. Like, that mentality, that motor is already active. Like, well, why can't you telling me I can't do it? I shouldn't do it. And I'm like, nah, blow it. Like my grandmother used to say, blow your soul, go for it. Yeah, do it. Now, it didn't work out, because I told her, I said, the kids you were going up against, baby, they've been doing it for a couple of years. That you don't just, you don't just fall into that. But yeah, no, consistency, I would imagine track played a big, that's why I said talk about the track, because it had to have molded your mind toward the future, after track was over. Like, that's what I was going to ask you. What was the moment, because you keep saying like you weren't decided in what you were going to do. What was the moment, I imagine, probably after college, or maybe I'm wrong, where you said, oh no, I'm going into this? Like,
it got tough, and I was thinking about this like a lot earlier today. It was coming down to the wire, because everything, of course, didn't pan out with track, I'm in my last few months at SB. So it's like, okay, you're about to graduate, your eligibility is done, so what's next? And so I started focusing on, again, falling back to my interests. So at that time, I started taking a few programming classes, thanks to my friend Kumi, who helped me out. It was a computer science major that helped me out with a couple of my intro to Java programming classes. But I was interested in that, but I learned, like, I was like, yeah, I like the logic and the technical aspect of it, but I don't want to be one of those programmers or software developers that is going to sit down for hours and just do code. That wasn't me, right. But I did like some of the technical aspects of it. But what I did really gravitate towards was web design and computer graphics. So I was like, well, wait a minute. I can basically go, like, leave here, find a .com and go work and basically start my career from there. And, that's pretty much what I did. I graduated, left SB or Santa Barbara, and I was scared because in Santa Barbara, I had a job. I was a supervisor at the cafeteria. I could have moved to manager. I had like a safety
Gaucho
net
Grill, right?
there. No. It was like Camarillo or
Camarillo.
That's what it was called. It was like the I'm mad I can't remember the name. It started with the C. Like, you know how like downtown they have the streets like Cabrillo and
yeah.
That was the name of the cafeteria that was right on the edge of campus, directly across the street from off campus. But I was working there. I pretty much worked through all the different cafeterias on campus, and then ended up at that one last and just basically moved my way up to supervisor. But altogether, I had a safety net there. I had my apartment and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm going to move to Orange County, because Bacona and some other friends from college had a house there with rooms for rent for super cheap. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. But it was a huge leap of faith because I didn't have a job or anything. And I remember I first moved out there. I ended up working for a sales position for Valley Total Fitness until I got my first job. But I did end up getting like one .com job, which turned into like a bigger one. I think right around 2000, the beginning of 2000, I got like a real official .com job, full salary, full benefits, and I was like,
I remember that. Is that when the Jeep came into play? The Jeep Grand Wagoneer or Jeep Grand Cherokee, something like that.
Yeah. That's when I got the Jeep, and certain life events did take place, which is why I was laughing. And I know you know.
Hey, if you want, it's up to you.
Oh no, we don't need to go down that.
Actually, that they're on the line.
That's funny. That would be hilarious if you did. But,
no, I will say, I remember when you pulled up with the Jeep, I was like, oh, he made it. That's a wrap. He made it. He's doing it all, because .com. For younger people out there, go ahead and Google .com companies of the early 2000s. So many people, like not we all, but there's people who talk about Bitcoin now, and everybody knows somebody that knew somebody that, they put $500 in Bitcoin and they got 20 million. Like, it obviously doesn't work that way for everyone. But for the .com companies, choosing that as a career, you were golden. You did it. You made it. Like, and because there were a lot of people, at least we were young. I don't know. There was no social media. So,
oh no.
Like that was, can you imagine social media back then?
Oh man.
Hey, I could have ran for mayor. I'll tell you right now, because man, I would have been all about it. So there was no, you couldn't look at other people and see what they were doing, so you just found out about it through the news, like on TV.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, and word of mouth too. Word of mouth was big, and really, when you think about it, trust that what people were saying was real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I saw you pull up with the truck, I mean, I was like, oh, dang. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I mean, all jokes aside, I was like, yeah, he's older than me. I gotta get my stuff together. I was like, okay, all right. What was that? That was 99, right? It had to be.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was.
That was 99, 2000, around that time.
Because I remember I was a personal trainer for 24-hour fitness, and I had to come down to Orange County because we had some kind of training.
That's right.
Yeah, for a week straight, or it felt like a week. I think it was like 3 days. And golly, where is that dude now? The guy who was training us. The guy who was training us was this is totally off topic, but he was a dude that everybody kept making jokes the whole week. And he's like, I know what you're making a joke about. He's a dark-haired guy, short, white guy. And he was like, you know, yes, I've been in movies. I won't say what kind of movies he was in, but I'm naive. I'm like, what are they talking about? And he's a decent-looking dude. And I guess he had done like a lot of Skinamax movies in his past. And this is where he dwelt after that. But anyhow, yeah. But no, I remember coming down to Orange County. And you had the truck, you had the, everything that was going on at that time. I was like, man, that was my first time outside of going to Disneyland that I had even been to Orange County. I still remember going to the Asian spot where they loaded me up. I would never eat like that now. And you were like, oh, yeah, this Chinese food place is good. They give you a lot of food or something like that. And I got it to go. It was like orange chicken and fried rice. It was like right down the street from South Coast Plaza. And I remember going there.
Oh, I remember that place. Yeah. It wasn't like the chain. But
no, this is a mom and pop place. It's probably still there.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That takes me back. Oh, my goodness.
I remember we rolled there and we came back to your pad because I was staying there, and it was a house full of people. That's where I met everybody. And I was like, oh, okay, totally different vibe from Santa Barbara, but it was kind of the same. But Orange County is more of a city. Santa Barbara was, at least back then, it was a little more chill. Not so busy, not so close to LA. But
definitely.
But yeah, no, man. I mean, what was it? I don't know if that was the same visit. I think it was.
It was one of many.
Oh, yeah, no, it was.
What was it? Irvine Spectrum a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's where I got to see Dennis Rodman with his big old, what looked like fake hand. It's funny. I have a
Sloppy Joe's.
That was the name of that place. Wasn't there a place called like Rolling Rock or Falling Rock or something like that too?
Oh, there was a club there at Irvine Spectrum, Rock Bottom.
Rock Bottom. I think that's where Dennis Rodman was. I think. I don't think it was Sloppy
one of the
Joe's.
Two. That was when they won that last championship, and he was living in Newport Beach. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Carmen Electra. Yeah.
And he would be spotted in several different clubs just hanging out.
Yeah, I still remember dude had a black leather jacket, black cap, shades on, and like 50 kamikaze shots by himself, letting chicks just... Oh, yeah. And the place was damn near empty when we were there. It wasn't like that. Now, I was just... I mean, when I was young, I'll admit this. I don't know if he'll ever listen to the podcast. Maybe he will. I don't know. Maybe he already has. When I was young, like between that, a couple of other situations, and Billy Clark, everybody knows Billy. I got to meet a lot of cool people back then, and I was just a young dude, when I was in LA before Palmdale, like I swore up and down, I was like, no, I'm gonna do something behind the scenes. I'm gonna do something in front of the camera. I'm gonna do something. So when I finally met these people, not a lot of them, I met Puffy. When I met a lot of these people or saw them in real life, I was still goofy enough to be like, oh, it's them. And I would stare. Nobody would tell me, hey, don't stare at them. Just chill. Act like you belong. But I remember seeing Dennis Rodman. I was like, I don't care. I'm staring. I was like, this is crazy. Dennis Rodman, the Bulls, like, and that was in their heyday. And it's so, I have a bit of a tradition. It's become a accidental tradition. Whenever I tape an episode of this, don't ask me why, I put it on mute, but I always just press play on The Last Dance. It is probably my favorite documentary.
Hands down.
It just, culture wise, for the 90s and the 2000s, the kids will never do it, but you know, you go to the stores, something as simple as Target, and you see them all wearing the T-shirts and stuff, Aaliyah T-shirts and all this stuff, and it's like, you don't even know what you're wearing. But I like watching the show because it just reminds me of the vibe back then, and seeing some of the gear they had on and just what they thought was cool. And it's like, oh man. But Dennis Rodman, I remember his hands were so dang on big. His episode is my favorite episode, all jokes aside. From that, he broke down to a science how different people's shot would come off the rim, right? We all take him for granted and laugh at him, but he wasn't a dummy. So to see him physically, I was like, that's a big dude. I think he's like 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah,
and his hands,
he's very tall.
Boy, yeah, no, I don't know. That's my story, but yeah, so. You're doing the .com thing, and then...
Oh, man. And then, so, I mean, it was great when it was great, and I was doing it for like about 2 years with that first company, and then the bubble started to burst. They closed their doors. Because I was on the engineering side, we got laid off last, but it took about like 2, 3, 4 months for me to find like another job. But at that time in my life, like what would happen I'd get laid off because, you know, still trying to do the .com thing. I would work for like a year or 6 months to a year, and then you would get laid off through this downsizing, and the whole cycle would continuously repeat. And so by 2000, so after a while, I was just like, you know, I can't do this anymore because I hated the whole thought of starting over and constantly trying to play catch up. So I just had to think about it, took a step back. And I know you remember this. I basically was like, I loved Orange County, with the passion, but I needed to take a step back. I moved back in with my parents for 6 months, and I had to basically figure out what I was going to do going forward.
Don't just graze over that. Where did you move back to, Plez?
It's just this place up north, the 14 freeway-ish, Palmdale.
Yeah. But I don't think I've been anywhere else in this country where people have, and I know there's people who still live out there. My hat's off to you. But to go back there, I remember you were like, yeah, I'm going to go back to my parents' pad for a while. I was like, you're going back to Palmdale? Like, I still talk to certain people that will remain nameless that had to go back there for certain circumstances, and they still like, man, I'm trying to get out of here, dog. And I'm like, I hear you. And it's not that it's a horrible place. It's just, I was just talking to someone the other day, and they're like, oh no, I went to high school. I went to Sequoia, where my kids, or my younger daughter now, goes. And I'm like, this person's like almost 40, 37. I'm like, doesn't it feel weird to live near where you went to high school?
That would be different.
That'd be weird to still be driving past Highland, and you're 37, 38. Like, not that you didn't accomplish anything. I'm sure one of us is a doctor that's driving past Highland High School now, but it would just be weird. I was telling Kay, I said, I'll never experience that because everybody around me, most people, it worked out for some, not all, but everyone's goal was to get the hell out of there.
Exactly. Everything was, especially our generation, we were all about how do we get out of here? How do we, even on the weekends, how do we at least get to Valencia or get to the Valley or get to LA? It wasn't about staying there. It was about, like leaving as soon as physically possible.
And for the few friends that did want to stay that I'm thinking of, I had another clique of friends that were, nah, fool, we're going to stay. We're going to go to the races, fool. And I'm like, you can tell you what I'm about to do. Yeah. I'm about to go to Moose McGillicuddy's in Old Town Pasadena. Going to go to the Muse. I'm going to go to some other places. What's that? Can we wear our big jeans and our whatever? And I'm like, no. Like grown man stuff, or at least we thought was grown man stuff back then. Like, yeah, it was just to get out of there. So I can't imagine. I mean, yeah, but anyhow. So 6 months, and then what?
All I knew was it had to be temporary. And of course, it was humbling, to have to like tuck your tail and like, reevaluate and move back in with mom and dad. And, but as bad as that part, in terms of the sucking, the one thing about it though was you did feel a sense of security, like at least for like that short amount of time while I figured things out, knowing that my parents were, taking care of everything. I didn't have to worry, and I could like truly focus on like my next step. And which was funny because I had to reevaluate and think like, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? Initially at the top, of us starting off, we're talking about my thoughts on everything in terms of the importance and significance of jobs in general and how I wanted to do something important. So when I was doing .com and doing web design, somebody had said like, hey, if you weren't doing this, which was my dream job, what would you be doing? And my first thoughts would always be like, my only interest career-wise was law enforcement. I love crime scene investigation, the detectives, like basically solving puzzles, putting stuff together with limited information. I always thought that was really cool. So I remember that conversation. So I was like, you know what? Let me start looking into that. So I started basically looking into it, reading. I bought actually a couple books, and I remember sitting down telling my mom that I wanted to go into law enforcement. She was not mad, but super worried, super concerned because it's, like a dangerous, career to even think of. So
right.
I'm going through this book, reading through, because it broke down like each step of the recruitment process, what you need to do to qualify, and so on and so forth. So the biggest thing for me at that time, going back and forth with my previous career, having bad debt. And so for law enforcement, you're a liability if your credit isn't decent because you're, you could be susceptible to taking bribes or, stuff like that. So I knew I needed to fix my credit before I can even think about, applying for like LAPD, because they had an office like off of like at Devonshire, I think, one of the stations, and you could go there to take your tests. And so I was trying to basically go through that, but I need to fix my credit first. So I was like, you know what? Let me just find like a really, really good job where it's going to be stable, number one, and also pay well. And, I started looking around, and as luck would have it, there was this one job I had a temp position doing customer service in 2003 for like about 4 to 6 months. And they ended up closing down that call center, moving it to Colorado Springs. And then, so basically what happened at that point, that was the beginning of 2004. And so if you weren't if you were a temp, you were basically let go at that point while they rehired all the internal employees for like pretty much their dispatch positions. And so I remember I had to go work for this background investigation company for 6 months, hoping that I would get a call back. And they did, like right around June, July, they called me back about this new department that they were opening up. And it was called Regional Maintenance Dispatch. And I was like, I didn't like, there was nothing appealing about like any type of dispatch position, but right. I knew it was going to be stable and it was going to pay well. And, you know, what happened was I learned that, oh, this isn't like really a dispatch position. It was pretty much like a network operations position because of the monitoring, the troubleshooting, and all the stuff that was related to it. So the longer I started working that job, which at that time was offering a lot of overtime because it was a new department, short staffed. So I had Tuesday, Wednesday off. And I worked a swing shift. So for me, if they were like, oh, just go ahead and work like, you know, Wednesday, to me, it didn't matter because I wasn't going to do anything anyways on my day off because, you know, it was in the middle of the week. So I remember some paychecks, I would rack up like 40 plus hours of overtime during that entire period. So that allowed me to catch up on my bills, everything that was like in collections and all like the bad stuff. I cleared everything up. And by that point, I was like, okay, half of me was like, yeah, you can go ahead and start applying for LIPD again. But then I was like, but wait, I actually love what's going on here. And then I started to learn the technology behind it. I was like, oh, well, this isn't just, you know, a dispatch position or anything like that. This was basically, I started to see the networks that were supported by telecom, and which was basically going to be the first for me, an internet service provider. So I was like, oh, wow. I was like, I could work for an ISP. There's so many different networks that need supporting on the network monitoring and network engineer side. So I was like, okay, that gave me a whole new career path. And at this point, it was like right after I got married, I was like, okay, my path isn't law enforcement. That went by the wayside, but it was basically, I remember 35. I was like, okay, my path is I want to become a network engineer. And so I was like, okay, you know, Maurice Walker, I brought him into the company. He had started like a few years after me, and he actually became a network engineer a few years prior by just basically working in the position, but taking a couple of tests for Cisco certifications, passed them, and was basically went from working network operations to become a network engineer. So he proved to me that it was true. So I basically followed the same path and did that. And I was like, once I became a network engineer, almost instantly my whole thought was get back into management, because that's what I was doing prior to basically going the network engineer route. I was a supervisor of a technical operations center. I like leadership, and so I wanted to go back to that. So, you know, as of today, you know, September 9th, 2024.
Right.
If you ask me what I'm going to do, is basically, you know, I'm a manager of network engineering now. And within a year, I want to be a senior manager. Within 5 years, director, and within 10 years, VP of network engineering. I know it was a mouthful.
No. I mean, and I won't have you go into what you just laid out. I won't have you walk through every reason why, or every, explain every level of what you're talking about. But I think the point is, you're still going. You know, I won't ask you your age, but we are of a certain age. But even like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, all jokes aside, it never stops.
No, it continues to evolve.
It continues on. Like the people who are just kind of living and just kind of, you know what I mean? Like you have to keep growing. You have to keep moving. Like there's no moment, you know, it seems like a lot of people are just looking for that moment where they get to just, you know, and they get to just chill. I don't know what that looks like. People always go, you know, well, your retirement. I'm like, I don't know. And this is me at the age I am now. 20 years from now, I think I know my perspective would have changed by then. I think life forces it to change. Into what? I don't know. But as of right now, like the idea of retiring from anything, like, I don't know. Like if I just retired, my form of retirement would just be going into something else. Like,
right.
I've always said worst case scenario. I shouldn't even say worst case scenario, but alternative real estate. Like I would just go into something like if money was no object, I would just go into that. Like if I wasn't worried about how I was going to pay my bills because I retired, quote unquote. Yeah, just do that. Like the idea of sitting on the couch and going, the price is right. Like, what the hell? Like, and I don't know many people. I'm sure they're out there. I believe they came from a different generation, 2 generations ago, maybe, like our parents' age. There are some people I know in my field. They retired at a time where they can now afford to travel. Like, you know, you get a lot of people, I want to travel. And it's like, do you know how well off you gotta be to be able to afford? I don't know about you, but I look up these trips, you know, I want to go to Europe. It's 10 grand. Oh, okay. Got 10 bands. Cool. Yeah, I want to go to whatever, like to do that. And that's all you do is just travel and chill. Like, come on, like you gotta really have a good retirement plan. I don't know.
It scares me. Honestly, I was just talking to my director about this last week because I just hit my 20-year anniversary with the company, and she had signed my card basically saying, I hope you don't have to do another 20. And I was like thinking, like with my age now, because I'm nowhere near 50.
No, you're 58, right?
Yeah, and nowhere. I haven't even reached 50 yet. So to me, another 20, to me, is definitely doable. And to me, I'm just thinking of like the goals that I want to accomplish between now and then. I was like, I see that as basically like achievable and I could reach it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to basically keep pushing and keep moving and the thought of retiring early, like that person was like, you know, I want to retire between now and the next 5 years, you know, once certain things are taken care of. And to me, what scares me about retirement is getting bored and having no sense of purpose, meaning, okay, what am I working towards now? Mm-hmm. Because that stops. To me, once your career stops, like, okay, like unless you completely shift gears and go into something entirely different, which is an option. But for me, as of right now, my idea of retirement is basically going back into teaching, doing teaching online, remote, and basically not having to, you know, travel or do anything like that, but still have income coming in. Still basically being able to do something productive that gives me some type of consistent schedule, because that's a big part of it too.
That's the thing. Yeah, you got to have a consistent schedule. People just, I don't know. One of my coworkers, a friend of mine, his mom got to a point, or it has come to a point where she DVRs episodes of Family Feud. Family Feud comes on like 24 hours a day. He's like, I know. And he goes, when I go to visit her in Florida, we're just sitting there watching Family Feud. And I was like, damn. And she's retired, paid, doesn't have a care in the world, but she won't go any, like, that's her life. She'll just sit there and watch TV. And I'm like, that's not, why would I want to do that? Like, I don't know. Like when I was doing those crappy construction jobs, when I got back into refrigeration, there's like kind of what you were saying, like you get laid off and then you come back, you get laid off, you come back. It was, hey, we're busy in the spring. And then around December, they go, well, the well's kind of drying up. So, you're the first one hired, first one fired. And I was like, man, so I would sit at the house and it's not even anxiety, but just it always made me think. I was like, oh my gosh, like rich or not, well off or not, if I'm sitting here at this house watching, ITT Tech and Marinello. Well, I don't know if ITT Tech's still around, but Marinello.
No, they closed.
Yeah, they did, right? Okay, yeah, but the dude with the hat sideways for no reason. You sit on the phone all day anyhow. Why don't you make the phone call about your future? Why are you making it so complicated?
I remember that.
The idea of being home to see those commercials every day, and at that time I was like, shit, this stuff kind of applies to me. Like, it didn't, but heck no, there's no way. Like, I would have to be a dog walker, something. I just know for me, like, if you put a gun to my head and said, hey, what would you do if money was no object? If it wasn't real estate, as funny as it sounds, because I know who I used to be when I was a younger guy. I didn't care about kids and stuff like that before I had some. There was a dude, and I gotta check in with this guy to make sure he's still around. His name was Cecil. Lives in Palmdale, but my kids, probably about 3 years before we moved out here, they were going to the Boys and Girls Club during the summer. And I don't think, no, it wasn't after school. No, it would have been crazy. But they were going during the summer while I was doing real estate. And this dude was a retired cop. And when I say he seemed like the happiest dude, I remember he told me something like he had a Grammy or something for doing gospel music. Big, tall, light-skinned black dude with a bald head. Cool. If Sinbad wasn't famous, that would have been this dude. It's same, like, well, pre him getting sick. He was just like another Sinbad. Yeah, like he could have stood in for him. Just a cool dude. Always had a joke. Always real quick. And the kids just loved him. And I told Kay, I said, in my mind, he's rich because this is all he has to do. He passes out basketballs to the kids, and he's like, all right, I bet you some Jolly Ranchers, because he always had them in his office. And I was like, especially at that time, because I was so stressed out with real estate and trying to make a deal close and all that, I was like, oh my gosh, if all I had to do was pass out basketballs to kids and slap them high fives and play, let's play 3-on-3. All right, y'all get over there. Let's go. And I'm like, oh my, I would feel like I was rich. Like if I had no worries, and that was, because kids, that's one thing I will say, especially, well, I shouldn't say that's me, especially if they're not your kids. But I have great kids, but other people's kids. A lot of kids are fun, man. And I told Kay, I said, it would just, in my mind, maybe I'm naive, it would keep me young. I had a coworker up until recently. He ended up retiring by force because he was getting a divorce from his very much younger wife, who was trying to take him to the cleaners based on him making over $100 a year. And he was like, oh, well, I'm 66. I'll just go ahead and retire. And it kind of sucked. Like this dude looked like Santa Claus if he was on a diet. Like just,
oh, wow.
Yeah, like he's an old man and real nice dude, real nice guy. He'd help you out even if he didn't have the answer. Country dude from Athens, and at least I think he was from Athens, but Athens, Georgia. But he told me, he was like, I was like, man, he had like a 7-year-old and like a 10-year-old. I was like, man,
oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, oh my, like I'm just thinking like, in my mind, the worst thing that could happen is like a 12-year-old standing over me while I'm in a hospital bed at like well, hopefully I'm not in a hospital bed at 75, but you know what I mean? Like, I was like, dude, don't you feel bad? Like, you're going to die and they're going to be like 16. And he's like, Keith, I tell you what, they keep me young. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I don't have a reason to go to the park, but I go to the park with them, go get ice cream with them. And I was like, and that, to me, that's what it's all about. Like, people are so fixated on retiring and just going and doing their thing, which is reality, unless you got a couple mil in the bank, which I'm sure somebody in here does, you're gonna be chilling because you won't be able to do anything else. Like, I've heard stories where somebody's like, I get $2,000 a month. Like, I don't know who you are that you can live, unless your house is paid off and you don't have any credit card bills. $2,000 a month, you ain't gonna make it. I don't care where you live.
Unless you leave the country.
I was just about to say that. There's a couple from church. They have a family member that moved to Vietnam. And I was like, oh, there's that option, I guess. Not for me. They're actually moving back pretty soon. I brought them up. I was talking to them and they were like, oh no, it's been a year, they're coming back. I said, oh yeah, something about toilet paper and running water. No, that's mean.
I do. Speaking of other places, though, we do plan on taking a trip to Belize because, you know, my wife is from Belize and still has family out there. One of her aunts is she still does real estate out there, so we are considering basically trying to buy a property out there so that in retirement we can have a property that we can travel to that's already paid for. That's something that we're looking into.
I'm looking into the same thing, not in Belize, but Florida, somewhere, you know, that's where all the old people go, at least on TV, Golden Girls. But it's true, man. Like, there's so many coming from Cal. Like, I won't even go beat that dead horse, but dude, like what's like for a lot of friends in California, like, what are you gonna do? Live in the San Fernando Valley? Like, you see that? I don't know. Like, I used to have to work in the you and I lived in the San Fernando Valley. I wouldn't want to live there 20 years from now. I can't even imagine what it'll look like. Like, I don't like it now. Like, let alone my wife's aunt and uncle, which they raised her pretty much when she came over from Jamaica. You know, they lived in the valley back in the 70s and 80s, and
that was when it looked like Palmdale.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, they had orange fields where parts of the 118 are, or something like that, where the mall was. And you can, well, now I'm sure it's all condos or something, but I know when you and I were living in Northridge, you could still see those orange fields across the street from the mall towards Wilbur? I don't even remember, but it was like after the mall heading west, you could see just orange trees chilling in a field. It's funny, I was watching Terminator 2. I was like, hey, Northridge Mall. Yeah, that's where they were, people.
It's funny you bring that up because when I lived in Lakeview Terrace, the east side of the valley, that one scene where I guess Sarah Connor's still in jail, they filmed it, and it's supposed to be like a jail. That's actually a hospital in Lakeview Terrace, like 2 blocks from where I used to live. They filmed a lot of stuff at that hospital because it wasn't really functioning as a hospital. It was never really open, but they just filmed a lot of movies up there.
Yeah, just watched that, and you know, he's walking through the mall, and then when he's on his motorcycle and the big rig, it starts following him, and he's in that what do you call it, the wash or whatever. I was like, yep, Northridge, whoop, whoop. I was like, yeah, there we are. It's just funny because I'll talk to friends that are from out here, and, you know, we'll talk about it, and I'm like, you know, that was filmed, you know, over where I used to live. And like, they, in their minds, like, oh, that's right, because you lived, you know, near Hollywood in California. I'm like, not at all. It's just you to be amazed where they would choose to film certain things back then.
Halfway Cafe.
Halfway Cafe. Oh, yeah. Santa Clarita, right?
Yeah. If you take like not the old road, but that Sierra Highway, that back route to get
right.
Yeah, you see that, and it's always the last time I saw was in Top Gun Maverick, which is funny.
Oh, is it in that? Yeah, maybe it
at
was.
the very, very beginning when he has to parachute out and he ends up walking through it, and he walks into the little diner, the Halfway Cafe, and he's like, "Where am I?" And this little kid
That was the Halfway Cafe?
Yeah, and the little kid says, "Earth." But I notice it even more now, but it's always supposed to be someplace super rural, and sometimes it's like Texas or Midwest, but it tickles me because I know, I was like, that's Santa Clarita / Saugus, area,
Right. Yeah, no, I do know. Oh man, so you're a happy guy. So you left out a couple of things, Plez. You
what are you talking about?
How'd you meet your woman, your love, as Mr. Prince would say?
Good old Mr. Prince. We met at work. In 2003, like officially, we met at work. She was already there. She did customer service, but she was like this type of lead that only worked on something with like government compliance or government complaints or something like that. So we met there and became friends and just basically started hanging out. And then, down the line, once we were kind of like in different departments, we, officially started dating. And, as I say, like, the rest is history.
Oh, that's good. I remember that time period because your situation changed just as mine changed, like right around the same time, as nothing but a major coincidence. Yeah, no, it's funny. And after that, I don't know, like, I won't say things were never the same, but
I know, but you feel like that because it's
no,
like they're never the same.
Were. It did though, like. When I look back at it, especially like when I'm down here in the basement, I'll think about old times. I'm like, golly, man, like it all happened at the same time. Like everything just kind of, we went from, I was talking to somebody and I was telling them about how we used to all just, me, you, Kurt, Jason, sometimes Kelly, Edwin, everybody, we just be playing Madden, playing NCAA. And it'd be Tuesday at 2 p.m. You know how well off we'd have to be to not worry about nothing and all be in the same place to do something that simple. And all of that changed after that. Yeah, that's when it was time to become an adult. No drama classes and hey, I'm curious about playing this or that. I'm like, gosh, girl, I'm like, go take karate. You can take anything. Actually, she doesn't need another hobby because she has enough.
They add up.
Now, Kaylee's going to pick her up right now from her band practice. She keeps texting me. Hold on a sec. It's bad pod. You can't see what I'm doing, people. But yeah, no, that's the good thing about having older kids that can go pick up the other kid.
You got backup.
Need it. That's one of the best things about her being back from Orlando. She's a really good kid. She doesn't mind doing it. Sometimes prefers, I'll go get her. I'm like, really? I'm like, I wouldn't have went and got Kelly from, no, I don't think I ever did. Like, oh, Kelly's got football practice. Keith, you mind picking him up? Hell no, I'm picking that fool up. Sweaty in my Honda Civic and mean green.
He's got a bike, don't he?
Yeah, I'm like, nah, he got friends. He ain't got no friends. Nerd. Like, nah. It's different back then. It's way different. That's funny, man. Telling his kids and my kids about the past. I'm like, yeah, I was his big brother. I was getting him ready for the world so he can be the person
you had to be tough on him.
Yeah, And this generation doesn't get any of that. Because that's not where the world is. I don't know if that they'll ever have to flex that muscle again that we all know. I won't call it, I guess today it'd be called bullying, but like we make the jokes about like our high school, like I made mention of it before. You seen Mean Girls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you agree the dudes that we all kind of kicked it with, I won't say it was exactly like Mean Girls, but it was very cliquey.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah.
Something as simple as your but yeah, no, something as simple as your haircuts.
Oh
Man. Talk about things that shape us into who we are today, sad to say. But man, haircuts, clothes, these are all superficial things.
It is.
But they were fair game.
It's fair game, and I like doing a comparison between that generation versus now. I can say this. There's at the end of the day, it's a form of criticism, and in a way it's supposed to be constructive. Like, what are you wearing? It should be constructive. It is not bullying, in my opinion. It's your boys are looking out for you, like, hey man, that's
to think
crazy.
Yeah, you would like to think it's a generation thing. Like every once in a while it comes up with my kids where I'll talk about, I'm like, oh my, like they take chances, and I'm like, you can't wear that? Like, aren't your friends gonna say something? Like, you're stepping out. Like, girl, you better iron your shirt, or whatever it is. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because like if you came to school with a wrinkled shirt, like people would be like, look at this hobo. Yeah, and they're just like, no, it's not like that. Like then they would. Not that they would get in trouble, but it's just like, no, that would be mean. And I'm like, oh, I know it would be mean, but it would make you not do it again. And they're like, no. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, you couldn't survive back in our time. Like,
I saw this reel the other day, and it was, of course, an older guy doing it, but he's in his bedroom, and he showed basically like the difference between first day of school, our generation versus theirs. So ours, barely sleeping, has the whole lineup of what you're going to wear all the way down to the socks and the shoes, everything, every feature laid out. And then, alarm clock doesn't even go off. You jump out of bed, you put on your stuff, you're set for the day. But then
waiting to wear those new Jordans.
Exactly. And then you see the new current generation, and they're just like, let me just throw this on, and that was the gist of it. It's just like go out wearing whatever, and there was just like such a difference,
Man, such a difference. Like that was first day of school. At least you had to make sure you were fresh. Like, and we're not talking elementary school, like high school. Like,
oh yeah,
man. And if you were smart about it, I know with my mom, like I wasn't getting guests. It's funny. I know kids are like, Guess what? Like the brand, but like I wasn't getting Guess and all that stuff. I'd get like a pair and have to kind of fake the funk and get some mixed ins or whatever. But I was always about my money, especially in high school, because I knew that. So I knew I had to be doing something, and for whatever reason, Foot Locker would not hire me. That's where I was trying to work in the AV mall. I wanted those shoes. God dang it! I mean, duh. That's why I have over 100 pairs now. They wouldn't hire me, so I learned how to cut hair through trial and error, and that's how I got my money in high school. I was cutting hair. And that's where that money would go, straight to gear, as we called it back then. Like,
wait, didn't you work at Magic Mountain?
Shut up, fool! I know why you said that. No.
I know you so well.
I'll go ahead and tell
I know you so well.
I'll go ahead and tell the story. Magic Mountain, for those that don't know, that's our version of Six Flags, far superior to the one here in Georgia. It's amazing, man. They're closing one. I want to say in Texas or Tennessee, something like that. I just saw, or New Orleans, one of the, or Louisiana. I'm trying to say. Yeah, no. What he's referring to is a bunch of us. We'll say a bunch of us went to Magic Mountain to get jobs, and I guess they were like handing these jobs out. That's what I was told. What I was led to believe. Didn't Clayton go with us too?
He wasn't there.
He wasn't there, but he got a job. I remember.
Yes, and
Mr. Braggadocious. But no, I went in with the interview and the little bungalow, or what do you call it? We'll call it a trailer bungalow. Yeah, that's what they used to call them back then. Yeah, and everything was going great, and the girl was like, I forget her question. It was something like, if you saw somebody steal, would you tell your boss or like help out your friend or something like that? And I don't even remember my answer, but all I know is it was the wrong one. I said something like, well, it depends on like what the item was or something like that. She was like, huh. Well, thank you very much. And I was like,
yeah, I know why they asked you that. It's because of
black. No.
no. I worked in games. I know that Andre and Clayton, they all worked in like the food area. I worked in games, so there was a lot of cash changing hands. You would literally take your apron with like $200 to $500. So that's why they asked that question, is because of there's like a high probability, because all that money is moving around. They want to make sure basically want to check your integrity.
I see. Yeah, no, I didn't. I had no training on giving an interview or anything like that. Or taking an interview. I was just answering honestly like a dodo. Yeah, I didn't get that job as a result. And what was that? Golly, was that summer of '95? I think so. Yeah, actually, it was. Yeah, summer of '95.
It definitely was. Yeah, I can remember it now.
Hands down. Here's what I will say. That summer, hands down, so far in these 40 some odd years of life, has been my most fun summer, period. And
I can still hear the soundtrack to that summer.
Oh, right now. Telling. So I found out about Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
Golly, man. Like, so much good music. Yeah, no. All I did was, like, I tell my kids well, not anymore, but when they were little, I go, all I did summer before senior year was what you see Billy Madison doing. Minus the drink. That's one thing I can say. I did not drink in high school. I wasn't, not to get dark, but I had alcoholic grandparents. And between that, I had not hippies, but just kids, teenagers of the 70s. My parents smoked weed. So I never found either one of those things. And this is Dr. Dre and Snoop in their prime. Now it's not Snoop's prime on insurance commercials. He's doing very well for himself. But the real Snoop Dogg, before the I'm a Pimp, the gangbanging Snoop Dogg, everything was about weed. Weed t-shirts, weed hats. Wasn't into any of that stuff. All we did was play basketball, dunk ball, which is something different. And everybody knows who they are. It's too big of a roll call to bring it out. Basketball, dunk ball, the pool, eat 39-cent cheeseburgers from McDonald's when the deal was going on, and see how many we could eat in one visit. I think my record was like 4, which isn't that much. But and just chill. I was before downloading CDs. Just listen to CDs. Yeah. We go to Blockbuster Music. What's Blockbuster Music? We go to Blockbuster Music. It was a procedure. Hey, Raekwon Chef got a new CD came out. Wu-Tang. Oh, let's go to Blockbuster Music. You know how bad of a job that had to be for them to know that no one's going to buy their CD at $16.99. We listen to it. This is dope. All right. Now let's go to Warehouse because they got it on sale because it's the first week it came out. They got it on sale for $12.99, or if it was an up and coming artist, $9.99. You know, and just go buy it there. We just went there to listen to it first, or it'd be garbage and be like, hell no, and no, yeah, all right, we can skip this one. Notice that never came. Well, no, it would never come back now because now you can just listen to music damn near for free. Golly, I couldn't imagine buying CDs now. Talk about you don't know what you're getting now. You really don't.
No.
I mean, it used to be like Jay-Z said, if you're like me, you're reading the album cover. You're reading the credit. You're reading the credits right now. I always did that. I'd be like, okay, so I'm listening to the intro. Ooh, track 3, produced by Timbaland. Okay, cool. Oh, track 4, Dr. Dre. Oh, okay. Oh, featuring Busta Rhymes. You know, it's all right. This is a dope album. Yeah, no. Nowadays, I don't even know who the heck these people are.
You know what's funny? A legendary rapper, not going to name names, came out with an album recently. And what I'll do, it's funny because of the way that the whole system is now. You can be so much more selective because you already technically, because you pay your membership for Apple Music, for me, you automatically have access to everything brand new that comes out. So what do? This brand new album comes out, I listen to it, and I basically just go through track by track and see if anything catches me. If it does, cool, hit the download button. If it doesn't, just keep it moving and never download it. And if it's just 1 or 2 songs I could use for like something for Instagram or something like that, okay, I'll grab one of those 2 and make like a playlist. But no more is the day of, okay, the decision making of, okay, is this worth $15, $16? Oh no, this is a double album. Okay, you don't have to think about that.
Yeah, no, yeah. Nope, no more. And I think I realized it. I'm a bit of a anal person when it comes to music and movies, and just to me, how I saw things starting to move. It seemed like artists got smart majority of the time. I remember Destiny's Child. Remember me and Billy, we went to Northridge Mall. We saw some movie or something, or he bought a book that Russell Simmons had wrote or something. Is when he was working for Def Jam, and we were at Northridge Mall, and the new Destiny's Child, which was the Survivor album, I think the name of the album was Survivor or something like that. Garbage, like straight up. Like I told him, I was like, this is not worth buying. I already have it, because the album before that was the Say My Name and all they had some tracks on there, some cool R&B tracks. I was like, this one, I don't know what they were doing. And it said, how did I know this? Because I read the credits, and produced by Beyonce. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, where's the, real production? Like, who produced this? At least Dallas Austin, somebody. Nope. MS said Beyonce, and I was like, oh no. I mean, you want to listen to Bootylicious? I'm just saying, like, it was garbage. And I told him, and he was like, yeah, this is pretty whack. I said, yeah, but my point is, it seemed like they were trying to save a buck and operate off of who they already are. And a lot of artists have done that. I mean, I can't think of the last new album that I can listen to front to finish and not have to skip a track. Skip 3 tracks.
It's very, very limited. And I'll tell you, it's definitely, I don't think it's anybody new. I can tell you that.
I don't think so. Drizzy. I could listen to some Drizzy. I'm a Drizzy fan. And maybe the old Ye. Not now. Now, I don't know. I'm hoping for you. Praying for you, buddy. But yeah, maybe I think he's probably, for me, the only one that I could. Well, not his late stuff, but consistency. I'll say Drake. I'll say that for my casual listen. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anybody. Oh, I know you heard the news about who's gonna be doing the Super Bowl. You know,
I thought it was on the Breakfast Club because I listened to that in the morning, every morning as I'm driving into the office at like 5, and it was just odd to me because it's New Orleans, and so LA had theirs last year, right? Or
right.
The year before. So and it makes sense. Like they typically get artists from, like, when it was in Atlanta, they had a whole lot of Southern artists, that were performing. So for New Orleans, you would have thought that it would have been, along that level, but then they brought Kendrick, and I was just like, I just thought it was different. Like, I don't know.
I think they did it straight for the hype. I don't even think they're still, like, if anything, to me, that hype was dying down.
Yeah,
big time. Because, like, especially nowadays, especially now, you know how old that situation is going to seem by 2025? Now, pause. I saw it yesterday, and I was like, all right, I know what I've said about Kendrick Lamar and some others. I'm like, okay, let's go to my music app, and I want to see top 5 tracks. They were not things that, like, I know the tracks, but what it used to be is, hey, you're performing at the Super Bowl because your auntie, your grandmother knows you don't have to call. Like, everybody knows the songs, even if they're not a fan. Like, oh, I know this song, like your grandmother dancing to No Diggity or something. Like, they know the songs. Kendrick Lamar is not that artist. Great artist, I'll give him his due, but, like, he's not there. Like, I don't hate to say it, but you know who he is? Drake got some, but it
we don't have a Canada-based football team yet, though. So
no, that's true. But based on that, I thought to myself, I said, they're just doing this because somebody in charge somewhere said, well, who's the hottest right now? And to me, they're out of touch with pop culture, and they say, oh, this is the dude, and I'm like, he's got 4 tracks that I was looking through my deal, and I'm like, and one of them he's got to bring Drake on because Poetic Justice. I'm like, and that's way too slow of a track. I'm like, he's got It's All Right. He's got DNA. I mean, he's gonna have to perform that. That's 2. And I picked out like another 2 tracks, and I was like, yeah, but it ain't gonna top the Usher show. It ain't going.
Oh no, I personally, I liked his first album, but after that, like, yes, I do like All Right. It was a good, and a very big song, and as with DNA. But as far as the whole album, that first album was like all through A through Z. That was like really good. This other one, all the other ones, like, he did have like one decent song on one of the soundtracks to Black Panther. I think it was the first one.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Is the last album the one? I think I listened to the whole album the whole way through. He had the one track where he was arguing with his chick. I thought that was very Eminem Stan reminiscent. I don't remember the name of the track, but fans of him.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
every other word. Everywhere. It was creative.
Yeah.
It was creative. But yeah, like, all I said to myself was, he's gonna have to have some features, like they used to do with the Grammys and the American Music Awards. Did you hear James Earl Jones died, by the way, today?
Did he?
Darth Vader died.
Oh man, I've been so busy. I haven't even opened up social media since this morning, so I definitely missed that. And I actually have a version one of my audible versions of the Bible was narrated by him.
Oh, I remember that was a thing. Yeah, he narrated the Bible. That's right. Huh.
Oh, man.
But he's 93. Crazy. It's just a trip that all these people, he's not going to be the only one. Like, it's time for them to die. Nobody lives immortal. But yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, wow. James Earl Jones. Crazy. I mean, he was good, still good for voice work, but thanks to AI, they don't need you anymore. They don't need your face anymore. They got it down pat. Man, so we're good. But yeah, no, with the Super Bowl, I was like, he's gonna have to have features. I don't know who, but it's gonna have to be. I'm curious to sit and watch the not hate, because I don't think there'll be hate, but there's gonna be talk about can he hold down a whole show, all that. That's a really young decision for the Super Bowl. And living in California, that's one thing. It's a different vibe. But for the people that you walk past, at the grocery store or whatever, like out here in Georgia, I'm like looking at old people. I'm like, this old lady ain't gonna know who the hell Kendrick Lamar is. Did you watch the Club Shay Shay with Marlon Wayans?
I heard about like different parts and like what stuff that was brought up, but no, I didn't watch it.
Surprisingly good. He brought up a point that I thought about for Kendrick Lamar. I don't think this will happen because the world is ruled by social media and likes and what's popular. I'm losing my train of thought here. What was I I just totally lost my train of thought. Don't look at The Last Dance while you're on your podcast, Keith. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'll stop hating on him. Basically, it should be interesting for the future. I think he's going to there'll definitely be a feature. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Marlon Wayans, sorry. He was bringing up In Living Color because you remember, I think it was like 92. In Living Color did their own halftime show because back then it wasn't like now where they're like, yeah, tune in for the halftime show. They'd have some mess on like the Rolling Stones or friggin' the Who or something like that. I can't wait till the Who comes on. And he said they had the halftime show and they got 20 million views. And it had never been done before. Everybody turned the channel and knew, before social media, to go to Fox and watch the halftime show within Living Color. They had sponsors, the whole nine. Never been done before, never been done since, because the NFL told In Living Color, oh, you will never, because they lost all. This is sponsored when they have their whack ass halftime show. They were sponsored and people didn't see the commercials and all that stuff. Right. They said, you will never do this again. He said, who the next guest was the following year. And I knew because I'm a huge fan. Can you remember?
Not that far back.
93? It was 93.
No. It wasn't Janet. No, that wasn't her.
Close. Janet Jackson, has she ever done that? Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
We were all there in Northridge. That was the first Super Bowl party. Like, was that supposed to happen with Justin Timberlake? I was like, wow, that's a little forward, but all right.
Letting it all hang
you
out.
can't whip out on Sunday.
On a Sunday.
Yeah. Coming home from church. Yeah, no. No, Michael Jackson. He's like, they got the biggest pop star in the world. And I was like, that was him in his prime, too. I was like, yeah. And he said, and as a result, like, obviously we didn't do the halftime show again. But I thought about it for this year coming up. I was like, it ain't going to be the black folks that do it. It'll be, country music television, CMT. Like, if you don't want to watch that mess, you can watch this. Like, there's so many different demographics that watch the Super Bowl. I just don't think.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like being out here in Georgia, it's not all country, but I mean Atlanta. Oh yeah, they'll watch it. But where I live, like they're gonna probably want to change the channel because they don't know the songs. And I was like,
they're gonna probably turn it down and wait for the commercials.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I thought about it. Usher, perfect performance. But came out on skates, moonwalking on skates and all that. Perfect situation. This one, I thought to myself, I said, you see, ruined it for everyone. Next year, I can probably guarantee it's going to be, I don't know.
The Swifties.
It's going to be, that's what I would have thought. I think the only reason they didn't do her is because she was pretty much part of the show this last one. They kept flashing back to her and Ice Spice in the VIP. But no, it'll be some other genre of music where everyone's like, oh, they got to cater to those people too. It's going to be something so different that they're going to make sure there's no hip hop. You can't have lowriders in LA and celebrating gangster rap 2 years. Was it 2 years ago now? Yeah, I guess it was. Cause then Usher, you can't have all that. And then Kendrick Lamar, which is kind of a curveball for something this big, in my opinion. And then, what next year? But then again, I don't know how you could top Usher anyway. It would have to be a Taylor Swift. I mean, you already had Katy Perry do it. I mean, these are all people that I wouldn't be my first choices in music. But as far as people that everybody knows and agrees, it has a reach. Yeah, it has to have a global reach. Maybe I'm just that old. I thought about that too. I was like, damn, maybe this is where the world is. I was like, wow, if that's true, hey, more power to you. But anyhow, I guess we can bring this to a close because you and me can go on forever, and this podcast will turn into something else as it already has with talking about whackers.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like this last Super Bowl, because it's on a Sunday, it's whatever. Got to work in the morning. I didn't have anything. I don't have people out here like that. I wish I did. I was sitting in this basement with my dad. But this one, with knowing that it's Kendrick Lamar, I'm like, and what? Don't let it be the Giants versus the Redskins or some terrible mix. I was like, this will be one of the lowest rated Super Bowls ever. At least people want to tune in because it's Rihanna performing or something like that. I don't know. But enough of my doom and gloom. We will go ahead and cut it at just under 2 hours. Thank you for
wow.
I know, right? See, everybody keeps telling me like, I don't have nothing to talk about. I'm like, that's not by yourself. But yeah, no. Kay's one of the main ones. I'm like, are we gonna get you on? I'm like, why? Well, you got to hide. Just no, it's proof. I didn't pull any punches. Plez knows there's lots of jokes I could have pulled, and same for himself.
Indeed.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see what's up. Maybe we'll have you back on and talk about some other stuff. Maybe we'll have a post Super Bowl whine and complain. But anyhow,
I'm down.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Everybody, thank you for listening. This is Keith Bowers and Pleze Crawford with Grow Up Already. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Please post a comment, one of you. I look at the statistics. Spotify calls it analytics. Post a comment. Let me know what you think about it. I'm on YouTube as well. Grow Up Already. I went in through an episode on there as well. Again, just Google it. You'll see me on there. The goofy picture. The goofy picture is on purpose. Attention grabber, flowers, roses. Anyhow, all right. Thank you. God bless and have a good night.